Yeah, because they got it.
Waste of our film.
All right, delete.
Luckily, we're on digital.
And this is A&B Convos Wrestling Edition.
Welcome everybody to the most must-see wrestling review show on YouTube. Welcome to A&B Convos Wrestling Edition. As you can see, we are missing somebody right now because once again we have a very special guest in the house. I bring you, in my heart, the still Raw Women's Champion, Asuka! I am the future. What is?
Nihongo ga wakarimasu ka?
What in the what? What is? Hey, D. What?
Huh? Well, I mean, the thing is that it's not really politically correct for a Caucasian to play an Asian, so I had a ethnic double. You know, like a stunt double.
Ethnic double?
Yeah, I didn't want to offend anybody.
Was that a Blasian? I can say that.
I believe so.
Because I'm half Blasian.
Blasian Lives Matter.
I'm the blood.
And on to the show.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome to A&B Convos
Wrestling Edition.
We want to thank our stunt double. That was actually the Tajin. And,
thank you, Tajin. At
TikTokins.
No, TikTok has been
which is about
banned.
it's about to be banned. It's banned. A lot of people are talking. It's very bad.
Are you sure it's not fake news?
It's TikTok is fake news. She's a Twitcher. You can Twitch. Is that right? Is that a thing?
It's called Twitter.
Is that Twitch?
Twitcher.
Okay, boomer.
I don't
What's
know
your
social
Twitch?
media things.
Teja Vu. I was right. You could catch her at Teja Vu on Twitch.
All right, that's a wrap on the Tajin, everybody. Thank you very much. All right.
On to wrestling.
On to wrestling. So look, this week, right? We saw it was the last appearance of Kairi Sane on Monday Night Raw, and in fact on WWE television. Now, I'm feeling some type of way about this. I'm feeling some type of way because I understand that she's a newlywed. Her husband is in Japan, and she would very much like to go be with her husband. I am of the opinion, because she was a huge star in NXT, and what ends up happening more often than not, you bring a star over from NXT onto the main roster, and then you kind of get lost in the void. Now, granted, I love her Pirate Princess, loved it, loved her theme music, always reminded me of Disneyland every time I heard it. She became one half of the women's tag team champions, which was fantastic. But then it just sort of delved into a Rey Mysterio. I'm getting beat up, my head split open, and I don't get it. I feel like if they were really utilizing her to her potential, you have to give them a reason to stay. And she had no reason to stay.
Okay. Give me a timeout. 2 seconds. Fill time. Air time. They'll never know I'm gone.
So, in other news, what I personally feel
and we're back.
The Pirate Princess, Kairi Sane, is no more.
Bid a farewell.
I'm hurt. I'm genuinely hurt. I was a really big fan of Kairi Sane when she came over to the WWE. Love what she did in NXT, the Pirate Princess. Loved her theme music. Reminded me of Disney World every single time I heard it.
It was great.
You were a champion in NXT. You bring her over to the main roster,
Right.
And what ends up happening is more often than not, they kind of get washed out to sea,
Right.
if you will. I mean, you know, she had some success. Obviously, one half of the women's tag team champions with Asuka, and that was pretty much it. Then it just kind of, I don't know, dived into Rey Mysterio. I'm getting beat up every week,
Right.
and then you are getting beat up by Bayley of all people, and you scream for Asuka. You know, let me tell you, creative writers, I don't know what in the world you were thinking or what you were doing with that, but that was insanity.
I mean, yeah, it's really disappointing. And they were one of our favorite tag teams, and it's, you know, and Asuka's road dog, and it's just like, I just feel like you're right, they somehow, WWE completely let another one slip through their fingers, and it sucks. It sucks for us fans.
Now, there was a video vignette of Kairi Sane backstage with Asuka, and Asuka was saying how she was lonely, essentially, until she came over on the main roster, obviously because being able to speak the same language and coming up in NXT makes it a little easier to get along. So I genuinely feel that if WWE, the writers, the creative team, Vince, really knew how to write for her, she would still be here. You have to give the wrestlers a reason to stay, because if you don't, you're going to jump ship. You're going to jump ship.
I honestly think, I know that they've done the you know, David and Goliath thing for a long time in WWE, and it's something they've done many, many times with Rey Mysterio. They've, you know, and all the Giants, and so to bring Nia Jax back in, and you know, you talk about being, we want women to be aggressive in the ring. We talk about it all the time, but we also need you to be careful, to be around of your, be aware of your surroundings, your space, and your size. Nia Jax just demolishes people, and when you have someone like Kairi Sane, even though it was supposed to be a, you know, big little thing, you're just tossing her around with no regard to her safety. And I honestly think that the way that they were having her punked and bullied and tossed around and injured by Nia is part of why she left. It's like you have anti-bullying campaigns, and then you make her being bullied a storyline that I think drove her out.
Which is one thing that I'm kind of liking, because the other thing they showed on Raw was the fact that you had Nia Jax going toe-to-toe with Shayna Baszler.
Okay.
Now, you know I'm not a fan of Shayna Baszler's in-ring performance. So I'm hoping that we see a step up in that game.
There's no way that she's been almost like on timeout, suspended this whole time, and doesn't come back and do something different. Because if she comes back and nothing's changed, then she doesn't care. That wouldn't make any sense. So
what doesn't make any sense is the writers. I don't know what's going on in that creative team. I have no clue what's happening right now. Here's what I do know, okay, is that Monday Night Raw had its lowest ratings, I think, in its history, okay? Because we're wrestling in a vacuum. We've mentioned this before, and we've been watching a lot of old school Attitude Era, Golden Era, Undertaker versus Undertaker. Like, we've been watching a lot of these matches, and we're seeing a lot of creativity, because out of necessity comes invention.
right.
And when you are fighting for your very survival, you're going to do everything you can. Like we saw with Renee Young interviewing Mick Foley, Shawn Michaels, Kane. They're talking about this era, right? They're talking about, you know what? Let's just go out here and do what we got to do and give these people one heck of a show. And that's what they did. It took a while to write this, but they ultimately did. And they beat out WCW. And we're seeing this all over again, because they clearly do not learn from their own history.
Right. And they, first of all, you should be learning from AEW, because they're successful right now.
In a short period of time.
In a short period of time, and they have the same circumstances going on that you do. They're in the same pandemic, but they're doing a lot better with it. And I don't see, if I was on the creative writing team, I would watch little wrestling shows like ours, so I can see what all the fans have to say, how they feel about what's going on. If you have a writing team who is only concerned with what they want to give you instead of what you want to receive, you're going to be at odds.
But see, because this is the arrogance, right?
Right.
Because the thing about WWE is that they commit, but they commit to the wrong things.
Right.
And they think they know everything when the fact of the matter is they don't.
Right.
Because when you're losing fans, when you're losing ratings, and Vince is thinking this is not a big deal, no, it's a big deal because ratings means you have a show or you don't. That means that people like us are either watching your show or we're not. And if we're not invested, we don't care, we're tuning out. I'd like to fast forward a little bit because we kind of touched on the Wednesday Night Wars. It wasn't a whole lot going on in NXT, I don't feel. That's even worth mentioning. We did see a couple of people drop on AEW, like Long Island IC, Zack Ryder. Not Zack Ryder anymore, but the man's looking tan, jacked, ready to go. But this is again what kept happening on WCW, right? Even with the Montreal screw job, we were just watching that again, where you saw WCW, the NWO waving Canadian flags, saying, "Hey, Brett, come on over." Like, this is what AEW is doing, and WWE just doesn't. They don't get it.
You know, the only difference is that these days, it's not as shocking because everyone keeps leaking everything. So back in the day, if you had someone on, you know, one show in the morning and one show in the evening, nobody knew but a couple of people. People go out of their way to break that, so we no longer have element of surprise, which is why we don't do spoilers. Matter of fact, we try not to even follow people who do spoilers or like see their news feed come up, because we want that element of surprise. That is part of the fun of it.
One thing that I did like is right out of the gate, everybody cut promos. I thought were really, really good. So we're kind of setting the tone for the show. Overall, it was a decent show, but at the end, when, of course, your favorite Nikki Cross, Neke, lost yet again, pushes Alexa Bliss out of the way, what happens? Lights, camera, Fiend.
That was awesome. That was awesome. I love the idea of him not being focused on one person, because that doesn't even actually make that much sense. A fiend, a monster, would be preying on everybody. So I like that.
But that's great, but I still feel like you've got to do something better, like the Money in the Bank, going to WWE headquarters.
That was great.
That was fantastic.
That was great. We were totally on board with that.
And it was good.
And even what the NBA is doing right now. Exactly what I was talking about with the virtual audience. Like, we have too much technology these days that you couldn't put screens around you and make the audience whatever you want it to be.
Exactly. Even baseball's got cutouts of fans. I mean, they're thinking outside the box, and I just don't feel like WWE is doing that.
Literally, they could have screens that are showing the wrestlers who cannot come to work reacting on the screen, so you feel like they're part of the audience still. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is so much more creativity. Like, you know what I mean? I don't understand.
I don't understand what's going on right now. I feel the product is getting a little stale.
Yeah.
And let's see if we have to go to the bread box and maybe get another loaf of bread. That was a terrible analogy. We're gonna move on.
I'm gluten intolerant.
We're gonna move on. Please, please, please let us know what you think about the current state of affairs in WWE, AEW. Do you like what's going on? Don't you like what's going on? A lot of the superstars that were let go have also popped up in like Impact Wrestling. So, what do you think? What do you think? Is it that WWE just is, well, I don't want to use language. Let's just say they're not writing to the best of their ability to keep their superstars. Please let us know what you think in the comments below.
Absolutely.
What else? What else? What else?
the notification bell.
Up here.
Ding, 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 ding.
Thank you guys once again for watching another episode of A&B Convos Wrestling Edition. We will catch you
down the road.